Hello, everyone. Sable here again, covering another week 3 match. We've got 4 matches this week. I probably should have mentioned that before. But in this case, it's Maris versus the Chungler. Both of them teammates in a previous tour and using the same avatar here, which is kind of cute. But not much to say. Week 3 UUCL. Let's get right into it. So Kadabra and Dodrio. This is a bit of a iffy matchup both ways. Kadabra can 2-hit KO Dodrio, but it requires either a high roll or a crit from the Psychic. It's not like a super high roll. I want to say it does 47 to 55 to Dodrio, so like usually you get it. The problem is Dodrio's Hyper Beam is an OHKO, and if it just body slams, then crit OHKOs or para means you win. So it's a very swingy matchup. The other problem is if Dodrio Hyper Beams, right, you can switch into it, and if you catch it with a Lapras, that's a dead Dodrio for 40% of a Lapras. If you have a Golem, that just walls it. So a very volatile start. I would say Dodrio is probably advantaged, but it depends on what's in back. And Slowbro in to try to catch a Hyper Beam, but she doesn't take the bait and just Body Slam, so this is looking good. Drill Peck is odd, so expecting a counter or expecting a pivot to Haunter. But if there's a Haunter, why wouldn't you just pivot there first and then pivot to Slowbro on the Drill Peck? Either way, getting away with it here and getting a crit, so now this is very threatening and probably going to make Slowbro rest if it has it. Just surfs. So now it's a bit of a 50-50 game here. Haunter can just KO this with a T-Bolt, obviously. If Slowbro stays in and calls it out on that and T-Waves it, that's really good. If it takes sleep, that's probably good because it's pretty unlikely to get to rest up. You don't want to hard Kadabra into a Hypnosis, but hard Kadabra into anything else is pretty advantaged. And Chungler choosing to go for the Kadabra and getting it wrong. So this Haunter is now looking immensely threatening because of that wrong prediction. I think probably the right call usually would be stay with Slowbro, but you can't always do that or just things will go really wrong. I don't know why the Slowbro is switching into Nightshade unless this is being sacked to let Dugtrio in. Or Golem. One of the two. It's neither. It's Ninetales. I think you just hard switch that in and save the Slowbro as a sack for something else. I don't know about that one. Fire Blast racks up some damage on Lapras. If Lapras is your switch into this, I mean, it's kind of typical that a lot of teams don't have real fire type answers, but Mars probably not having a fire type and just using the Lapras, but Jungler switching out and taking more Blizzard damage, I think, is maybe not the right play. The spread damage on all these things means like a Dugtrio or a Dodrio could clean up. Dodrio, of course, would have to get agility set up first, but gets called out and hit with T-Bolt. And now gonna go Dugtrio and catch the Nightshade. It's a good Nightshade because that would have taken out Dodrio anyway, so you cover for ground types coming in. But now, like, switching into Dugtrio is so dangerous. And now this is gonna take 30. And now next time Doug gets in, it's really, really scary. You can just sack things to get it out, and then next time you get to bring it in is pretty horrifying. And Maris making a pivot, Blizzard mid-ground to do some damage to Haunter, but now Haunter is in, and that's pretty scary too, just because it can get a little damage for Doug racked up, it can boom something. And because of that crit now, it's probably just going to take out this Ninetales and threaten a boom. A lot of things kind of going Maris's way earlier in this game, but also like a very nice call out on the Kadabra switching in. So like she's earned it in a lot of ways for sure. But I think those like that crit pretty big. Team composition wise, I definitely give hers the edge too. So like it's definitely earned luck, but it is like that crit was brutal. That Ninetales would have done a lot more damage if it didn't get crit on entry. And now Doug's in again, forced sack, maybe even click a sub. No sub, but like this Doug's just gonna keep claiming every time it gets in, and she's still got 2 fully healthy Pokemon, so good luck switching this Kangaskhan out. If she has one of her own, she can literally just send it in and click Earthquake to stop Haunter from coming in. She's surely gonna Earthquake. Yeah. Yeah, that was way too obvious, and he didn't really have any moves, Chungler. So now you're just gonna Body Slam this, get some damage. Sleep hits. So this is actually now a bit scary for Maris. Like, it's gonna depend on the last because of the Kang and Hypno being out of Doug range. Doug can beat this Hypno, I believe. I'm pretty sure it doesn't get taken out by Psychic at this range. But definitely, this is, like, scary for sure. Hard Kang and a Doug is not advised. One crit and two tries, and this goes away for free. Oof, this is going to be something. Hypno catching a Hyper Beam, so because of that, it's going to take this out, and then the Hypno on the other side will definitely lose this matchup, barring some big luck. You can just Seismic it, or T-Wave Seismic maybe is the right play. Yeah, Doug should be out of range, so I think you T-Wave Seismic for the extra guarantees here. And now you get to size. Oh, she's rest. Okay, so she just wins this. Yeah. That also means she doesn't have Seismic, so she did have to rest to get enough damage on this Hypno, so she's just going to rest loop until she wakes up with enough HP. Jungler should probably T-Wave this. You have to T-Wave it because you need to make it have a chance to mess up and not get to click rest. That's like your only real out here. But just doing this isn't going to work. If you use Psychic, you need to get drops, and if you don't get the drops, then Hypno is rested up and it Seismic tosses you and you lose. So I think Jungler has made a sequencing mistake here. It was a pretty unlikely win regardless, but you have to consider those things, I think. And now she's just going to take the damage because she already has herself out of range. And I think another Psychic is good enough range, but she's just going to rest and not risk like this Hypno clicking rest, I guess. Not that I think that would really be a threat at -1. Also, like, I don't think it could have rest. Yeah, I mean, it would have to have not have T-Wave, which would be really wild. Jungler, you have to T-Wave it. It's your only chance. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, this is definitely over now. It almost certainly doesn't have rest, and even if it does, her pressure is too high to stop it with rest now. And that's the game. Didn't even have to go to the Doug trio. Jungler's team, triple Psychic, no Lapras with Haunter, Kang, Ninetales. Definitely a bit risky in the Lapras, but you have some pressure between Kadabra, Hypno Haunter, and Ninetales, so it's definitely workable. Very Psy spam, but I do question not like running 3 T-Wavers, presumably. I don't even know if this Hypno has T-Wave from how that was played. And not too much that really follows up on the T-Waves, I guess. So I do kind of question that a little bit. Maybe there could have been a little more. I don't know, maybe something instead of the Haunter, something like a Dragonite or Gyarados that has a little more physical offense behind it. Would have made it trickier in the Lapras for sure, though. Maris's team, big physical offense emphasis, Haunter for pivoting and sleep, and then your classic Lapras Hypno. Looks like a definite better matchup for her with the Doug Trio. If you assume, actually the Slowbro did reveal Surf, so it's not like a horrid matchup, but switching into that Doug Trio is really rough, and you have 3 things that can't fight Doug Trio. So Doug, good call from Mars, scouting wise. I'd say it's a pretty earned win, although I think a couple things going her way early made it a lot easier. It still looked like it was probably her game regardless. So game 2. Electabuzz, Lapras. Okay, that's interesting. So if she's leading Lapras, what that tells me is she couldn't think of a better lead for this team, and she didn't want Lapras in the back. If she didn't want Lapras in the back, I'm going to assume that means there's going to be a Hypno and a Slowbro on this team. And she just put the Lapras up front to take some damage early, which honestly, like, it's kind of fine into the Selectabuzz. You get to hit it twice. You can try to sing it if you're feeling lucky. Probably just hit it or pivot. And there's a Hypno on T-Bolt. Doesn't even bother waving first. And I wonder if she'll just T-Wave this and beat it down, or if she's going to sleep it. And it looks like she's just going to T-Wave it and beat it down, which I think is probably correct, especially if your opponent is refusing to wave you. Gets the para anyway, against his will perhaps, and there's Hypno Rest, so I think that Chungler is probably going to have the momentum here. Especially with that crit, you just go to a physical attacker and push now. There's the Kang, and now Mara's in a bad spot. That's definitely a bit of luck for Chungler critting through the -1, and there is the Slowbro. So we've seen all of the big scary guys that people talk about, the big slow scary ones. Slowbro in. If you Amnesia on this, yeah, I don't love that Electabuzz. You have to consider the possibility of Amnesia. But para and crit. Okay, so now the luck is going the Chungler's way heavily. I don't necessarily know that Mars should have gone for that this early. I think you could have considered a double switch, but I think it's honestly fairly reasonable if you're not trusting the Slowbro as a win con to just go for the push. And T-bolting, interesting. So expecting the Lapras to pivot in on the ice move. I think that's a huge mistake. I think you just have to take the Blizzard and force Kang to set to take damage if it wants to damage you. Instead, the Kang doing 45 to the Lapras is 27, and now Kang just gets to finish it off. So quick turnaround there. Definitely a little bit of luck with the crit, but I think Chungler messed up by clicking that T-bolt. And now this Kang is going to get way more value than it should. Now, I wonder if she tries to save this or just goes for the Hyper Beam tie. With that Electabuzz paralyzed, this Kang looks pretty valuable, so maybe you consider, if you're leading this Lapras, maybe you consider hard switching it in. Or maybe you just sack the Hypno, but there's going to probably be a Hypno on Jungler's side, so you probably don't want to give up sleep like that. Oh, but she has an arrow. Okay. So unfortunate actually that the Hyper Beam missed for Maris because it only does like 30, no secondary effects, and you'd get more chances to do stuff here, but if this burns, it doesn't really matter. So that's a big burn for sure. Ooh, crit Blizz. Okay, well you've neutered the Kangaskhan at least, so she might actually switch out and save this and call another Blizzbolt Kang. That's so interesting. Thunderbolt notably does less than Body Slam to Lapras, so the only really reason you run it is to catch Gyarados or for crits, or I guess if you're burned, it does more damage than Body Slam. That's really funny. So another Aerodactyl, we saw one last game. I like this Aerodactyl concept more, I think. I think between Slowbro and Arrow, you kind of bulk out the physical attackers and then you can shield Kadabra. So I kind of like it. I don't know if I love the Lapras lead, but I'm not sure what else you would put there, really. So Kadabra hitting another Kadabra and Chungler wisely pivoting around it. Doug probably doesn't really care about the arrow at this point, so you just Earthquake because the arrow's on 22. But you care about that. That is a game-swinging crit. And a Persian. So Persian looks poised to potentially break this game wide open. That's definitely a good Pokemon to have here. You probably just T-Bolt. I'm pretty sure that takes out Kadabra and it covers for Arrow Pivot. I guess Slash actually probably kills Arrow too. Arrow only has 65 defense. Taking that and now maybe threatening a counter, and Chungler just going to get out and not mess around with that. Counter or Hyper Beam, I guess. Yeah, both valid. Arrow can clean this up if this goes wrong. So Kadabra is going to come in. There's not really a Psychic switch in right now. I think your best bet is just going to be sacking this and going to Lapras because you see no Sleeper. Yeah, so this Hypno is going to get sacked off. It doesn't really do anything anymore. Probably Lapras comes in. Maybe Arrow if you're feeling lucky, but probably Lapras because you still need to take out the Persian. Body Slam? Body Slam. Big crit. Ooh, that's a huge crit. Okay. Chungler can't really do anything with the Lapras now except for T-Wave it for the Buzz to do some damage. Oof, that is brutal crit. I think that Chungler still had pretty decent odds until that, and now I think the odds are awful because after this Buzz potentially kills Lapras, and even that's iffy with Para. Kang comes in, clicks Hyper Beam, and then this Persian can't switch into that. I think the out for Chungler here is going to be hmm, Persian Hyper Beam crit. No, you can't do that. No. Oh, that's so bad. I think, yeah, like Persian won't kill this, and I don't know if it's not quite in Hyper Beam range unless it's a high roll. That was a low roll. But actually, I guess preserving this Buzz kind of works. Arrow would have to crit it. Yeah, that might have worked specifically because Mars clicked Earthquake. Hmm. Yeah, I want to come back to that for a sec. So right here, Hyper Beam is a guaranteed KO. Earthquake is probably a KO most times. If you just raw Hyper Beam the Persian for like 60, then Arrow wins on a crit or a para from Buzz, which 25% crit odds, 25% para odds. It doesn't make a perfect 50 because obviously after one you have to apply the other. But I think those are pretty decent odds. Hmm. The other thing you could maybe do is double to arrow here and force damage on Persian so it's in hyper beam range, then Kang just hyper beams twice. And it always wins, barring like a Persian having a hyper beam and critting. Or maybe T-Bolt crit might get there. So maybe the right play here was actually double to arrow. But Earthquake doesn't even put it in guaranteed hyper beam range, but I think she probably calculated. Earthquake, she min-rolled actually. So now that I look at it, she min-rolled Earthquake and min-rolled hyper beam. So actually, in retrospect, I think that Earthquake was probably right and she got a little bit unlucky there with the rolls because she could have done 15% more damage than this in total. So just on the, it was probably around a 50-50, the KO, and I think those are decent odds when you consider that he might also just give up the buzz. But Arrow's not out of this. Double Edge into a Hyper Beam crit, or maybe even a Double Edge crit would do this. I'm going to check the damage on this one that Buzz comes in. 31.5. So Double Edge crit does in fact win this, and Arrow would live the recoil. So you've got about a 45% chance to win this. Let's see. Oh, you're joking me. RBY is not escaping its reputation this tour. This has been some of the most something. Yeah, this isn't typical RBY. That's a 1 in 256. Just pretend the arrow won the 45% chance. But Maris wins on that 256. I think her team ideas were cool. I think the arrow was like pretty good in this CAD Doug Persian stuff. So I think she had pretty good odds, and I think she won in the builder overall. But ugh, it's so annoying that of all the ways to win that, it was a 256. It could have just been a Farah, and that would have been, yeah, RBY. Anywho, not much to say. I like her team idea. I think that's probably a better way to use those three slow mons together is if you're just going to throw one of them in the lead, and it's probably Lapras because Hypno is too valuable as a special attack switch in. So I like her team ideas. She won this one. Congrats to her. And as usual, you know, like, comment, subscribe, etc. If you would like to make the numbers go up or tell me something or give me a comment, ask any questions about the game, and I'll see you in the next one.